We're working to connect a region of over 600 cultural bridges between our lands.
Welcome back to ASEAN in Focus. I'm Kaloy Tabunda from the New Era University ASEAN Studies Center. July 4 is the U.S. Independence Day. Here we also celebrate the U.S.-Philippine Friendship Day. And today we're honored to have as guest Mr. Philip Roskamp, the Counselor for Public Diplomacy at the U.S. Embassy, to help us discuss U.S.-Philippine relations. Mr. Roskamp, or can I call you Philip?
Please call me Philip, Carlos.
He's a career public diplomacy officer with the U.S. Department of State. Prior to arriving in the Philippines, he served as Deputy Director in the Office of Australia, New Zealand and Pacific Island Affairs, Public Affairs Officer in Mumbai, India, Assistant Information Officer in Jakarta, Indonesia, and Watch Officer in the State Department Operations Center. He also served in Dakar, Senegal and Okinawa, Japan. Public diplomacy focus areas include strategic planning, digital outreach, and disaster communications. Welcome to the program, Philip.
Hey, Carlos.
Nice to have you here in the program.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me.
Okay, you're new here. You're new here in the Philippines.
That's right, that's right. So I've been here for about 11 months with my family. I don't know if I'm the first Texan to be on Net 25, but maybe the first San Antonio native.
So you're the ambassador of Texas now.
That's right, the ambassador of Texas. So dual-headed, public affairs officer and ambassador of Texas.
Okay.
It's an unpaid yet quite important position. Yeah.
So how do you find your 11 months here so far?
Yeah, it's been fantastic. You know, the hospitality of the Filipino people has been great. My wife loves it. My kids love it. And I think most importantly for me, the work is really intriguing.
Okay.
It's really important work, and we've got some fantastic Filipino partners. We got to celebrate with them July 4th and Philippine-American Friendship Day, and it's really been quite fantastic. I think in the Foreign Service, or in this embassy, we have one of the best ambassadors in the business, and Ambassador Sung Kim. Man, the first 11 months have really been a dream come true.
Okay, you were in Indonesia, Jakarta, so there's so much. How do you find, what's the similarity or difference between Jakarta and Manila?
You know, it was a fantastic experience being in Jakarta, and I'll say that there was just really a buzz or an energy around Southeast Asia, and we find that same energy here in Manila. You've got a huge population, 110 million people, some people doing some amazing things, and so there are a lot of parallels. I think when we're working with youth in Indonesia, youth here, man, these are kids who want to change their communities, who want to change the country, and so, man, every day you get up and you get inspired because, you know, young people in Southeast Asia really want to make a difference.
Okay. Yesterday, July 4, we just celebrated the Philippine-American Friendship Day, and of course, U.S. Independence Day.
Yep.
So, what can you say about the present state of the relationship between the Philippines and the United States?
I'll say, well, let me rewind back to Wednesday, July 3rd, when we had our big July 4th reception. It was a fantastic demonstration of the friendship between our people. You know, Secretary Foreign Affairs Locsin came and delivered some incredible remarks. I didn't know this about him, but apparently he's an old speechwriter, and
yeah, he was a speechwriter of a previous president.
That's right. Well, Cory Aquino did her speech when she addressed the U.S. Congress, and so
how do you remember that?
so the ambassador delivered great remarks. Secretary Locsin delivered great remarks. It really was a fantastic sort of A-list crowd. Senate President Soto was there, and Secretary Dominguez, among others. Even Pia Wurzbach. We got some Pia Wurzbach pictures.
Miss Universe.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So to me, you know, the fact that there was such a huge turnout and everybody had such a great time really says something about the friendship. I think for us, you know, there are sort of three ways we try and think about the relationship. There's the friendship between our people, the partnership between our governments, and then the alliance between our militaries. And I think in all three of those areas, we're doing some amazing stuff together.
So how do you think how strong is it now, given the current challenges we're facing?
I have an 11-month perspective, and I think we're doing some pretty amazing things. Maybe like starting backwards, you know, on the military side, we've got over 280 engagements together every year between our militaries.
The Balikatan exercises.
We've got, among others, the Balikatan is one of the main ones. You know, we've got the Mutual Defense Treaty, signed 1951. You are only one of our 5 treaty allies in Asia. In terms of what our governments are doing, you know, the U.S. Agency for International Development and across the embassy, law enforcement, other offices, working really hand in hand with the Philippine government, and then to that friends piece, that people-to-people piece. You know, there are 4 million Filipino Americans in the United States, which is one of the largest Asian American diasporas. At any given time, there are about 350,000 Americans here in the Philippines. So we have this sort of really real bedrock of friendship, and so. You know, Philippine-American Friendship Day, you know, started in 1956. If we fast forward to today, we've even got an entire month in the
Yes.
United States dedicated to Filipinos and American. It's Filipino-American History Month every October, and that's the only...
Oh, the Philippine American History Month
every October, and so that's the only Asian diaspora group that has a month dedicated to the relationship. So I think those are pretty good signals that things
What
are
do they
strong.
do during that month? What are the activities?
Yeah, so around the country, Filipino diaspora communities will do cultural events, and they'll do food events, and really do a celebration of Filipino culture in the United States. Here on the embassy side, we try and engage with with Philams and show that we have this unique cultural and historical bond between us.
So you're the public information officer of the U.S. Embassy here in the Philippines, and I think one of your major programs are your youth engagement activities. Can you expound on this?
Absolutely. So we've got I think of the best metaphor would be Baskin Robbins or 31 flavors.
Baskin Robbins. Okay.
we do so many things.
I like that, but I try to control myself.
I'm a mint chocolate chip guy. What about you?
Me too. Me chocolate.
And what I mean by that is just to say we do tons with youth. So maybe just a couple things to begin with. One of our most important lines of effort or engagements with Filipino youth is on education.
Yes. Yes.
What I find is that Filipino youth, they're really interested in finding opportunities to not just be competitive amongst their peers in the Philippines, but globally competitive. And so one of the best ways of doing that is through education. We have a service at the embassy. It's called Education USA.
Education USA. Okay.
It is 100% free. It is 100% objective. We are not agents that are paid to put students at certain universities. What we are is just a free information service.
So this is a free service provided by the embassy.
Okay. That helps Filipino students find the right fit for them in terms of education. I will say, as a U.S. diplomat, I talk about the strength of the U.S. university system. But as a human being, for me, the most important thing is that any student, American, Filipino, Japanese, finds the best fit. What Education USA is here to do is to help Filipinos who are thinking about undergraduate or master's or PhD studies. What is the best fit? And if that happens to be in the school in the United States, that's fantastic. And so Education USA will provide free advising. We do information sessions on how to do college applications, how to apply for financial aid. We do college fairs. I'll just plug for your viewers at home.
Yes.
We're going to do some...
We'll talk about the details later.
We're going to do two graduate school fairs in September.
Okay.
September 27th in Cebu.
Okay.
And September 28th in Manila. And those are fairs where we bring over graduate schools from the United States. They set up booths, and it's a great opportunity for students and parents and educators to come check them out and see if any of those schools would be the right fit.
Yeah, I'm actually with the New Era University ASEAN Studies Center, and I handle international relations. Perhaps you can have one of those booths here at the New Era University.
And education outreach is one of the best things that we can do, and so yeah, absolutely, we'd love to figure out what we can do together.
And the fact remains that the U.S. is still one of the is still actually the favorite academic destination of Filipino students.
It's a I got to tell you.
Why do you think so?
It's a great news story, man. I mean, I'd like to think that certainly there's a linguistic connection, right? And so that helps. But I also think that American universities, both in terms of the facilities that we have available, the quality of the education, and within the classroom, our classrooms are really diverse. I think those things have developed a reputation for U.S. universities that means if you make the investment to study in the States, you're going to get the bang for your buck. So I would say last year we had an increase of over 7% of Filipino students going to the United States. So now we're at about 3,200 Filipinos at U.S. schools, and we've got about 460 American students at Filipino schools. We would love to see more Americans come here, and we're talking to Ched.
Okay, we'll repeat that there are more Filipino students now in the United States. Last year there's an increase of 7%.
7%, which is great, which means that our enhanced outreach efforts we think are reaching more people. We have a new advising center in Cebu, and so we think it's a great story, and we hope more choose the U.S.
Okay, we will talk more about the different educational opportunities for Filipinos in the United States and the other programs of the U.S. Embassy in Manila when ASEAN in Focus returns. Okay, we're back with our interview here with Mr. Philip Roskamp, the Counselor for Public Diplomacy at the U.S. Embassy. Philip, earlier we were talking about the Education USA. So, can you take us through the process of how Filipinos can, avail the services of Education USA?
I think the simplest catchphrase for any student anywhere looking to study overseas is you gotta do your homework. So for us, that one-stop shop for doing your homework is Education USA.
So it's a one-stop shop.
That's right.
Okay.
So you can find us online. You know, the easiest thing might be to go to Google and type in Education USA Philippines, but you can also email them, educationusaph@state.gov. They've got an online presence as well on Facebook, and so just look up Education USA Philippines, and you can see what upcoming events there are. So in addition to the graduate school fairs in September that I mentioned, we do undergraduate fairs every spring where we bring over about
Spring is September?
spring, and it's in like February and March.
Okay.
And so we will bring out about 4 dozen U.S. universities, both in Cebu and Manila.
Okay, so 4 dozen U.S. universities come here
That's right.
in Cebu and Manila to offer their services.
And what I will say is that as we've experienced this increase in the number of Filipino students going to the United States, we've also experienced an increase in the number of U.S. schools that want to come meet Filipino students. I'll say that the feedback that we've received from universities that have come to a couple of our college fairs is that year after year, the quality of the Filipino students coming to get information and apply continues to go up. So they're pretty impressed with you guys.
Okay, I like that. Okay, so why should Filipino students choose to study in the United States instead of other countries?
You know, I think that the value of a U.S. education is really in the diversity in the classroom, the quality of the curriculum, and the quality of the faculty. And I think that what international students find is that when they come back to their home country, in this case the Philippines, armed with a U.S. degree, a lot of doors will open. We find a lot of, let's say for example, folks who go and do a master's degree in the United States, that really unlocks some opportunities for middle management and even up in senior management.
So you think I can take my postdoctorate degree in the US?
Yes, come study. You can come study in my home state.
Okay, I will count you.
Yeah.
I will count you on that. So what's the success rate of Filipino applicants getting accepted to U.S. schools?
You know, I don't know what the acceptance rate is, but I know that these anecdotes that students go there and they're successful, that more are interested, and that more and more American schools are coming to meet with Filipino students. Those are all good signs. I don't think that we actually break it down by acceptance or denial or refusal based on nationality. But there are some Filipino students who are applying and getting into the most competitive schools in the United States. We just featured online, for example, a student who got accepted to MIT, as well as some Ivy League schools, and she basically had her choice of what school to go to. And she's not the only student like that. What a great success story that is.
So far, which are the most popular schools that Filipinos apply?
You know, that's a good question. You know, in general, Texas and California.
Oh, you're from Texas.
Yeah, but so in terms of the parts of the country where they want to go, New York, Texas, and California tend to be really big draws, and those are big states with lots of programs.
Filipino populations there.
Well, and I think what's appealing for a lot of Filipinos is that when they go to the States, if they have relatives or friends there, they've got a safety net that's built in. Either they might live together, or maybe even just go over for dinner to get adobo or whatever it might be on a Saturday night.
That's very Filipino.
That's right. That's right.
You have families everywhere, even in the United States, and you go to them. They act as the support system for foreign students.
That's right, and that's important. I mean, maybe you just need to to see a familiar face from home, or have a dish that reminds you of home. But having that support system is quite helpful.
I would like to repeat this question. So, what's your advice for Filipinos wanting to avail of these services by the U.S. The embassy?
So the catchphrase is, you got to do your homework, and the way that we help you do that is by going to Education USA. So go look us up online, or you can email us at educationusaph@state.gov.
Any requirements they should prepare before going there?
You know, they should just look online and see what's there. Now, I would say, you get different types of students looking for opportunities. Some are dead set; they know exactly what they want. Others are, it's kind of like they're at the grocery store or at the buffet. They don't know exactly what they want, and so some are just trying to figure out what the opportunities are. And so we welcome both kinds of students.
And they can access the scholarships.
So there's information on financial aid Education USA can provide, and I think the system in the States is a little bit different than in the Philippines, in that a lot of individual universities in America will offer financial aid. So that's something that a student should do their homework on as well, depending on the schools that they want to attend and where they get accepted, who offers a financial aid package.
What are some? Do you think what are some specific issues that the specific education literacy concerns that for example the declining English proficiency in the Philippines? How should this be addressed?
Yeah, so I think that we're doing some good work, I think, with DepEd on English education. We actually had an American English teacher here working with DepEd and working with teachers to do a Train the Trainers program, and so I think that opportunity to work with DepEd on English curriculum. One of the things that I think DepEd wants to improve is some of its reading programs, and so we're talking about ways to help that.
So you're dealing dealing with DepEd.
That's right. We have a great relationship with them, and they've been fantastic partners.
Okay, especially in the English proficiency.
That's right.
Okay, we'll talk more about the different programs and projects of the U.S. Embassy in Manila when ASEAN in Focus Weekend Edition returns. Okay, welcome back to ASEAN in Focus Weekend Edition. We're still here with Mr. Philip Roskamp, the Counselor for Public Diplomacy at the U.S. Embassy in Manila. Earlier, Philip, we were talking about one of the issues which concern Filipino students, and this seems to be English deficiency. It used to be English proficiency, but now it's English proficiency deficiency. Do you think this is true?
We don't have any data on that. I think that, anecdotally, we've heard some comments that I think compared to the past, maybe English ability is declining. Don't know whether that's true or not, but I think that when we work with DepEd, it is something that we're working on. And when they have specific ideas, we see if there's anything else that we can assist them with. Our U.S. Agency for International Development is also working with DepEd. We have actually a great online program that we just launched. It's called English 101.
English 101. 101. It's not 101. It's 1. J-U-A-N.
That's right.
Juan.
Right.
Okay.
And
Juan
and we run it on our Facebook page, and so it's sort of like simple, creative, humorous, English lessons, and so we're doing what we can, a little bit here and a little bit there to improve the proficiency level. Because really, at the end of the day, English is an important language of commerce. It's an important language of government, and we think that the ability to, with strong English, that young Filipinos will make themselves even more marketable in a global marketplace. I mean, at the end of the day, the world is a competitive place.
Okay.
There are Vietnamese or Indonesians or Indians, getting stronger in English, or Chinese or Japanese, and so no one wants to fall behind. And so I think the better English levels are for Filipinos, the more they can market themselves to really a global companies and global consumers.
Okay, we were a former U.S. colony, so we had the initial advantage of English proficiency. Do you think it's just that our neighbors just caught up faster?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, maybe if I come back in 2 years, then I'll have the diagnosis in mind after a 3-year assignment. But I think it's too early for me to say. But like I said, what's important for us is that we have that relationship with DepEd, and we can help out when we can.
Okay, so it's English 101.
That's right.
J-U-A-N /O and then Juan again.
Yep. And we run that on our Facebook page. So if people are interested in learning more information about kind of what we're doing in our partnership, at U.S. Embassy PH. You can find us on Facebook and Twitter as well as Instagram.
Okay. Going to another issue. Aside from education, the U.S. government has a big slate of programs catering to Mindanao. Yep. Especially now that we have the Bangsa Moro, BARMM.
That's right.
So what are your involvements here?
Yeah, so maybe what I'll do is I'll focus on some of our, on a few of our programs that we have in Mindanao from my office, from the Public Affairs Office. One of the best things about doing exchange work here in the Philippines is that once someone does an exchange, like yourself, and you become part of an alumni network.
Okay.
When Marawi, when the Marawi siege happened in 2017, we had a number of exchange program alumni who were living in and around Marawi, and they took it upon themselves to try and respond to help IDPs and help those in need. So we partnered with many of our alumni for a For Mindanao program. That became a hashtag, but really more importantly,
what's it again?
For Mindanao.
For Mindanao program. Okay.
They created a movement to help over 40,000 people who were displaced and in need after the Marawi siege. And through small grants to these alumni, they were providing care for women, for children, for out-of-school youth, some income generation programs. It was amazing to see that with a little bit of U.S. resources, we were able to support these very active, enthusiastic alumni trying to rectify these problems on their own. Some other things that we've done through USAID, we've given over 3.2 billion pesos worth of assistance to internally displaced persons and the communities that are receiving them.
That's in Mindanao. For Mindanao only. Okay.
That's right. It's for and that's specific to Marawi. We have some great programs dealing with schools in Mindanao, and I can give you 2 examples. One is called Empower Me. And that's
Empower Me.
And that's a program through which we've trained about 350 madrasa educators and administrators. Man, religious education, it's really quite important, but we want to make sure is that when children go to religious schools, they also get prepared to be productive members of society. And so working with these madrasa educators and administrators, we're trying to improve the pedagogy, right, the education in the schools, and also how they run the schools. It's been an incredibly popular program. A second example is in the Mindanao State University system. They passed a new rule or requirement that peace education is going to be required in the entire MSU system.
Peace education.
Yeah, peace education curriculum. And so when MSU passed this new policy that they were going to include peace education for all of its 70,000 students, then that was the first part. The second part was, all right, well, how do we design a peace curriculum? So, so they reached out to the embassy, and through a partner, we've helped. We've provided funding that has developed the peace curriculum for the Mindanao State University system that's going to reach over 70,000 people.
Okay. Why the interest in Mindanao?
Look, Mindanao is, it's the most restive place in the Philippines. Marawi happened in Mindanao. I mean, as a foreigner here, you know much better, better than me, the long history of Mindanao, and that there are great needs down there. I mean, what we find is that there are some amazing young people in Mindanao who are doing some incredible work, and sometimes all they need is the opportunity. And so if we can be that sort of spark, or that gateway that gives them some opportunities, they're going to do some pretty amazing things.
Okay, so it's really an action to counter violent extremism.
So that's a big, area of cooperation between our two governments is countering violent extremism. And look, we had 9/11 happen in the United States, and in fact, I will say, I joined the Foreign Service in 2003, and 9/11 happened 2 years before in 2001, and I'll say that there were. For those of us who joined the Foreign Service in that point in time, 9/11 was a really formative experience for us. And when you see so many of your own people killed in a terrorist attack, it really opened our eyes to the threat of terrorism around the world. And so I think if we fast forward to our cooperation with the Philippines now, there is a terrorist threat. You've had the Holo bombing, you've had other bombings, and so we're doing what we can together, not only to to root out terrorism, but to counter violent extremism. And so that's a really important part of our cooperation.
Okay. Going back to your peace education with MSU, why MSU only? Why don't you have the curriculum, adopted by other schools across the Philippines?
Well, you should go talk to Chet or Depet. It's just
you can help. I mean, you can advise them.
So MSU, was the first to pass it, and so maybe we can treat MSU as a pilot. If it works at MSU, then maybe it can spread elsewhere.
You have special programs for Muslim youth.
We've got we have one. So I would say not for Muslim youth, but we have one problem that I'll highlight that's specifically for Mindanao youth, and it's an exchange program called PYLP.
PYLP, what's that?
The Philippine Youth Leadership Program.
Okay.
That's for students that are between the ages of 15 and 17 from Mindanao, and we send them
anywhere in Mindanao.
Everywhere in Mindanao.
Not just Muslim Mindanao.
No, but anywhere in Mindanao, and we send them to the United States to do a homestay program.
Okay.
And I mean, the students that go, I think back to when I was 15 years old and I didn't know anything about anything. You get these Mindanao students who are energetic, who are academically successful, and they get to go to the States on this exchange program, and it really it opens the world to them, and it gives them a lot of courage to to improve their communities when they get back. So that is one program that is specifically for Mindanao students, and we're really proud of it.
So how can a Mindanao student apply to this program?
Easiest thing is to look up PYLP online. We've got information.
So everything is online.
we've got information on the embassy website, and it's got all of the application instructions, and it's got the application deadline. And so if you're a Mindanao youth and you are interested and you're in that age group, awesome. And then more broadly, our other exchange programs are open to youth from all across the Philippines.
Any other projects in Mindanao aside from education programs? What livelihood you have?
Yeah, so the USAID program that's helping people, the IDPs from Marawi and other programs. Yeah, USAID does a lot of work down there, including in health. So we're pretty proud that that we've done 3.2 billion just for Marawi alone.
3.2 billion just for Marawi.
Yeah, 3.2 billion pesos. Yeah,
Okay, so quite a lot for Mindanao. So how do you find so far? How do you find this program so far? Do you see the early results already?
Yeah. Well, I think in the case of the Marawi response program that USAID was doing, that a big part of that 3.2 billion. We found it to be a huge success because it was dealing with immediate needs, right? During and after the siege. I mean, people had to go somewhere, and they needed livelihood, they needed shelter, and so through USAID we were able to do that. I would just say, without getting into too many details, the military relationship that we have, with the AFP, in Mindanao really, I think was quite useful, around the siege, and I think that both we and our Filipino counterparts are quite proud of it. So we're really proud of the work that we've done in Mindanao because it really helped people in need, and it helped ease the suffering from the siege.
Okay, let's go outside Mindanao now.
Absolutely, absolutely.
What are your other major programs in the Philippines?
Well, so I'll talking about English 101. Maybe more broadly, I can say we really believe in the power of digital engagement for youth in the Philippines.
Okay, you have a digital outreach program. In the embassy.
Yeah. Okay. So look, we've got 3 platforms that we really do a lot of work on: Facebook, Twitter,
okay,
and Instagram.
Okay, so Filipinos can relate to that.
That's right. Well, Filipinos spend more time on Facebook and social media than any other population in the world. That's quite something.
So that's something to be exploited in a positive manner.
Well, and social weather stations just came out with a survey that Facebook was the second most important source of information after TV.
After TV.
For Filipinos. So it's just to say, if we're trying to create linkages between our people, you got to go where the people are. And in the Philippines, people are online. I would say two of the coolest programs we've done with digital outreach lately was we do something every year at our embassy called the NASA Space Apps Challenge.
What's this again?
The NASA Space Apps Challenge.
Space App Challenge. What's this?
All right. So every year, NASA decides sort of a problem set and provides some data that then people overseas, usually in partnership with our embassies, will hold weekend events to try and develop digital solutions to real-world problems. So we had.
So NASA is leading this one.
That's right. And so last year we had a team from the Philippines come up with an app to help fisher folk. Basically, it would download weather data and it would shoot it out via text message to not smartphones, but we would call them feature phones or dumb phones. Shoot them out to those feature phones so that fisher folk could get weather data before they went out onto the seas. Really important stuff because most of them don't have smartphones, but you got to know the weather. This team, now they not only won the Philippine competition, they won the global competition in their category, and we're going to send them to NASA this month. They're going to see a launch, and this team called Team Ainan of young Filipinos, they're going to pitch their app to a global community. Fantastic. So with this proof of concept, we thought, all right, maybe there's something here. I mean, in the Philippines, marine sustainability and fisheries, huge issue. So we thought, well,
very huge issue, especially now.
Well, so NASA Space Apps Challenge, we thought one app was about the oceans, but what if we did a competition where all of the apps were about the oceans? So 2 weeks ago, we had our first ever hackathon.
Hackathon.
Yep, so hackathon plus aqua for water, so hackathon. So we had 18 teams.
All this can be found online, right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
So we had 18 teams in Manila and 17 teams in Cebu, and we gave them 4 problem areas. It's called IUU fishing, illegal, unreported, unregulated fishing, and maritime security, coral reef protection, education, and there was a 4th category. And we said, here are the categories. Come up with some digital solutions. So over 48 hours, these 35 teams, some here, some in Cebu, made these incredible apps, then pitched them to a panel of judges, and they're going to get seed funding from us to try and develop their apps. It's amazing stuff. I mean, if you think, when I was young, the only way you really got news was you had to wait for the morning newspaper, or you watched the evening news on TV. The TV stations in the States, I was born before there was cable, went off at midnight. Now, information is 24/7, and what you carry in the palm of your hand has more information than the Library of Congress or the National Archives. So empowered with what we hold in our hands, you really can change the world, and that's what these young people are doing.
Wow. I hope this program reaches a great number of Filipinos,
I hope
especially
so, too.
we're using Facebook a lot.
Yep, absolutely.
After TV, Facebook is the second source of news.
Yep.
Anyway, we will talk more about the different programs and projects of the U.S. Embassy in Manila when ASEAN in Focus Weekend Edition returns. Welcome to the last block of our interview with Mr. Philip Roskamp, the Counselor for Public Diplomacy at the U.S. Embassy. Before we shift to the next topic, can you talk about this film which you shown at SM Cinema, the movie entitled A Plastic Ocean. What's this about?
Absolutely. Well, so, you know, I don't know if a lot of people know, but there are two sort of important days for the oceans in June. There's World Oceans Day, and there's also a relatively new sort of internationally recognized day, which is IUU Fishing Day. Again, IUU is illegal, unreported, unregulated fishing. You know, huge issues here. You know, 60% of the Philippines population lives in coastal areas.
Yes, yes.
You know, BFAR has estimated that over 60 billion pesos per year are lost due to, you know, maybe harmful, unsafe IUU fishing practices. And so what we really try and do is work with the Philippines on sustainability. So we as a public affairs section thought, well, all right, June is World Oceans Day and it's IUU Fishing Day. Let's see if we can, you know, get some chatter going about marine issues. So we brought over an expert speaker from the United States. His name is Greg Poling, and he works at a think tank in Washington, D.C. And we he met with a number of audiences. It was pretty fantastic, talking about environmental issues in Philippine waters. We partnered with SM Cares for a plastic ocean. And so, you know, one of the big challenges in Southeast Asia, I mean, it's a global challenge, the United States as well, but I think particularly in Southeast Asia is ocean plastics and ocean debris. And so what this award-winning documentary does is it talks about how one reporter...
So this is the documentary?
How this one reporter discovered the scourge of ocean plastic. He was actually covering a story on whales. Whales.
Yeah.
And when he got in the water to do his filming of whales, saw all of this ocean debris, plastic bags, plastic sandals, plastic bottles, and he didn't know that any of that stuff was there. And so what it did is it piqued his interest in, is this an isolated problem or a huge problem? The reality is that ocean plastics are a huge problem. And what this film does is it tries to raise awareness and also give people some options, you know, to how you as an individual can make a difference. I will say the SM folks and SM Cares, we're a fantastic partner in showing this movie. In fact, in a couple of the locations where we've shown it, there's been such huge interest that they've had to move from smaller theaters because they've donated their theater space to larger theaters. So it's been quite fantastic. The hackathon that we did it in the month of June specifically to promote awareness about you know, the health of the oceans and the health of fisheries. So I mean, we did a number of things to just try and get people to think about ocean issues in the Philippines while there was a global discussion going on about oceans.
This film is free?
It was free. So we the showings that we've done with SM Cares have all been free, and it's part of their sort of CSR responsibility. And really, again, we can't thank them enough, and we hope to be able to partner with them again in the future.
Can you partner with Net25 for that? I mean, we can show it on TV.
Well, so I mean, if we can get the rights to show it on TV, then that's something we'd love to do. If we can get the rights.
Or maybe some of our students in the university.
Yeah, absolutely.
We can have a free screening of the movie.
Absolutely.
Okay, going to another issue. Why the continuing interest of U.S. in ASEAN now?
You know, it's an interesting question, just given some of my background. You know, in 2010, I was posted to Jakarta. And a lot of your viewers might not know this, but we actually have 2 embassies in Jakarta. We have an embassy for our relationship with Indonesia. And we also have an embassy to ASEAN.
Yeah, I know.
The U.S. mission to ASEAN. And so we have 2 embassies there. We have 2 ambassadors there, one representing each. And it was a really interesting time because in the early 2010, 2011, 12, the United States became much more focused in Southeast Asia. I mean, man, the economic vibrancy in Southeast Asia is like nowhere else in the world. There are so many people doing amazing things. There are a lot of job opportunities, and so commercial opportunities. The youth in these countries are quite fantastic. And so since I would say about 2012, we've paid a lot. We've at that time we called it a pivot. Pivot in our focus as a pivot to Asia. And so all of these things were coming together as we were looking more at Southeast Asia. We created our first ever U.S. mission to ASEAN with an ambassador posted in Jakarta. And at that time, then President Obama came out to Jakarta and a number of the ASEAN countries. And it really just, you know, we woke up and we just said, there's a lot going on here, and this is a really important part of the world. And I will say, then if we fast forward to now, we've only increased our interest in Southeast Asia. You know, we have sort of widened, let's say, the aperture of our lens from not just Southeast Asia to what we call now the Indo-Pacific.
The Indo-Pacific,
basically from California or Hawaii across to the coast of India, that Indo-Pacific region. And so, you know, for us, the most important thing about that region is that it's free and that it's open that countries don't have to sacrifice their sovereignty for development, that commerce can move freely through the Indo-Pacific. And so, you know, our efforts here in the Philippines are about that. You know, maintaining a free and open Indo-Pacific through commercial linkages, through our, you know, humanitarian assistance cooperation. And, you know, I think what we found is that most recently in Jakarta, when ASEAN members came out with their own declaration about a free and open Indo-Pacific, man, the values that are important to ASEAN members are the same values that are important to us. So it was really interesting to see almost a perfect confluence of interest.
Somebody who's really engaged now in ASEAN, what do you think are the most pressing issues, apart from, of course, we mentioned earlier the issue of violent extremism and, you know, climate change. What are the issues? For example, humanitarian assistance.
And, you know,
what do you do here?
Well, look, the humanitarian assistance problems, I think challenges in Southeast Asia might fall into two camps, let's say. I mean, you've got situations like the Rohingya in Burma, people who are in serious humanitarian need, and then you've got people who suffer from natural disasters. And so two different problem sets requiring two different solutions, but at the end of the day, the point is that we are partnering with Southeast Asian nations. And if you go as far back as to Aceh and the tsunami, the U.S. has consistently provided assistance and been a leader in providing assistance for in humanitarian cases. Man, but those needs are real. I mean, you guys get earthquakes, you get typhoons, you get floods and mudslides.
We're right in the middle of the factories of earthquakes and typhoons.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
Okay, so you mentioned about the Rohingya. What's the response so far of the U.S., if you may?
Yeah. Well, so the since I'm not in Burma, you know, I don't know all of what our embassy is doing there latest. But really, our leaders have been consistent in their message that, you know, the suffering that the Rohingya people have undergone, you know, is quite terrible, and it can't continue. They're people who are considered stateless, you know, wanted by no one, and really, women, children, you know, men in these families, man, they need to have jobs, they need to have shelter, they need to have food, and so our embassy in Rangoon consistently works with with ASEAN and also with the government in Burma, you know, to try and make the situation better.
You're a career official at the U.S. State Department.
Yep.
So far, how do you assess your? How fulfilled are you in your job?
You know, so I grew up, you know, in Texas, like I mentioned. I was just a lower middle class kid. You know, my parents were divorced. For me, a big trip when I was growing up was driving from Houston to San Antonio or back and forth. So as an adult, to be able to serve in places like Africa, to be able to serve in Southeast Asia, to serve in India, these incredible places has been better, more than I ever could have imagined, and certainly like should have asked for. And so our career so far has been incredible. We've met some amazing folks who really inspire us, and to be able to raise kids in an international environment is probably the best thing that comes out of this. Is we've prepared them to be global citizens, and so this was the perfect career choice for us.
Any highlight of your career that you can share with us?
No, absolutely. I will say, I will give a couple. You know, one, so I've only been here 11 months, but I got to say that being here for the return of the Balangiga bells was quite fantastic. I mean, you know, a lot of what we do in diplomatic work, it might not be, you know, super sexy, and one might say, being part of history is amazing. And you know, I was there at Villamore Air Base when the plane arrived with the three bells, when the back of the plane opened and the crates came off, and when the crates were set out, and when the cranes lifted them up, and for the first time in a long time they had touched Philippine soil. That was pretty cool. I remember my first assignment. You know, one of the things that we work on around the world is countering human trafficking, and so in Senegal at the time, human trafficking was a big challenge, and we worked with the Senegalese government, one of my colleagues and I, and got them to actually pass a piece of legislation outlawing trafficking in persons. That was one of the, and so when I sat inside the Senegalese National Assembly and they voted unanimously to pass their anti-trafficking law, I was floored. I was like, oh my gosh, being a diplomat is so cool. And maybe just one last example was, you know, I've spent quite a bit of my time in Japan. My wife is originally from Japan. I studied there in college.
She's a Japanese?
Yeah, and so I worked at a city hall in Japan. And so when I was serving in Jakarta is when Fukushima happened.
Yes.
That happened on a Friday. 2011. That's right. And it happened on a Friday. And I remember seeing the devastation on TV. And as soon as that happened, our embassy in Tokyo, they needed Japanese speakers to help. And I volunteered to go help, and so that happened on a Friday. The following Monday...
So you can speak Japanese fluently.
And so the following Monday, I arrived in Tokyo, and the area near the embassy, it's called Roppongi, was empty. Lights were off because of the earthquake. And for about a week, I was able to help there at the embassy and help Americans and help Japanese and third country folks. But it really felt like that work was important because my in-laws are from Tokyo. It's really something I felt passionate about and wanted to do, and I really think that we made a difference in a time of need. And so I think to be able to help as a diplomat in the time of disaster in particular is really one of the most important things that we can do, and so that was really fulfilling.
Okay, finally, there's this survey which said that Filipinos trust the U.S. more than the Americans trust the U.S. What can you say about this?
Well, thank you, Filipinos. You know, which actually, it's interesting, you know, in our, some of the recent surveys, there was a Pulse Asia survey that came out, and social weather stations, you know, our trust and favorability ratings are really quite high right now, and they've, you know, improved over a couple of years ago. And you know, I just really think that at the end of the day, that's testament to the hard work between our peoples to be closer together. And so I just can only say thank you.
And you have a very good, you have a very big role since you're the counselor for public diplomacy. You're the face of the U.S. Embassy in the Philippines.
Well, and so when those results come out, you know, it's a good day for us. So.
Okay, thank you very
Carlos,
much, Philip.
thank you so much.
And I hope to see you again in one of our future episodes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
All right.
That's all, folks. I'm Kaloy Tabunda, and I'm 1 with 25.